Senate will come to order. Senators will be in their seats. The clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner. Billinger. Lazy. Bowers. Clays. Corson. Dietrich. Dahl. Erickson. Fagg. Fauscudo. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Cluse. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Reddy. Reichman. Schallenberger. Steffen. Straub. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Senators and their guests, please rise and give prayerful attention to the chaplain.
Please join with me in prayer. Heavenly Father, in the aftermath of winning the Super Bowl, there is so much we can thank you for. We just celebrated Kansas Day, Kansas birthday. Thank you for the sacred privilege of living in a free state, for the willing determination and resolve to maintain that freedom. You've blessed us to live in a state that enjoys numerous firsts. First in football, one of the first in basketball, in agricultural development, in fighting for the abolition of slavery. And Lord, we thank you today that unlike some other places in the world, we can live in a country and state where owning a Bible is not against the law. In fact, you said in 2 Timothy chapter 3:16, all scripture is given by inspiration of God and is profitable for doctrine, teaching us what's right, for reproof, teaching us where we went wrong, for correction, getting us back right, and for instruction in righteousness, to keep us going right, that the man or woman of God can be thoroughly equipped and capable for every good work you've called us to do. Thank you, Lord, for giving us the guidance of your word. And Lord, when in our humanness we resist, I pray that like a devoted parent, you'll lovingly correct us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Please continue standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please note reference of bills and appointments on pages 1 through 3 of the calendar. Points of personal privilege. The chair recognizes Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. In the VIP section today, we have members from the Kansas Volunteer Commission. This is a program from the Kansas State Department of Education that engages staff and governor-appointed commissioners to achieve its vision of empowering all Kansans to meet communities through needs through service. You may have seen the commission and its programs in the second floor rotunda yesterday, and perhaps participated in the meal packaging project on the South Lawn. Last year, the Kansas Volunteer Commission celebrated its 30-year anniversary of service to our state, and over the past 30 years, the Commission has granted tens of millions of federal dollars to advance the AmeriCorps, national service, youth mentoring, civic engagement, and volunteer management in Kansas. It serves as a resource, providing training, technical assistance, and funding opportunities to nonprofit organizations, local governments, education systems, and our tribal communities. So I invite you to visit www.canserve.org to learn how these resources could be utilized in your district. But joining us today from the Kansas Volunteer Commission staff is Dr. Jessica Dorsey, Elaine, you can stand up, Elaine Rodriguez, Haley Matherly, Sarah Nelson, and Tierney Kirkdall. Please join me in congratulating the Commission on 30-plus years of helping Kansas tap the power of its citizens to solve problems and strengthen our communities.
Thank you for what you do, and thank you for being here in the center today. The chair now recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Faust Cadeau.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I, too, have some guests with me here today in this Senate chamber. The gallery here, Susan Mollinger-Fieldstand, she's here today with Passageway. Mr. Vice President, I serve on a My VA board, appointed with U.S. Senator Jerry Moran and others on that committee, and we are tasked with finding shelter housing for veterans and employment, etc. And then we have others here today who are with U.S. UCS, wave your hands, and others. I have people here today from City of Wichita advocating for mental health services and homeless issues. And if you would just give them a round of applause too as well. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you for being here. Before recessing, are there announcements? I have one. I'd like to introduce my page from Wilsey, Kansas. It's in Morris County. Kylie Benedict. Kylie, would you wave at the crowd? Are there other announcements? Seeing none, the chair recognizes the majority leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Republicans will caucus immediately upon gaveling and in room 548. And at this time, I yield to the senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Upon recess, the Democratic caucus, or will caucus, in room 287 North. I yield back to the senator from Cali.
Senator from Cali.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate recess until the sound of the gavel.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The Senate is recessed. Chair recognizes the Majority Leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate resolve itself in the Committee of the Whole to be for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The motion carries. The chair appoints the Senator from Miami, Senator Baumgartner, to preside over the Committee of the Whole.
The committee, having resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole, will now consider those items listed on the calendar under the heading of General Orders. We will now turn our attention to SR 1737. The chair recognizes the Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, to explain the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This resolution is pretty much self-explanatory. If you look back in December of last year, there were 302,000 illegal border crossings in that month. Already this year, we're approaching 1 million border crossings. We're on track for a record pace of exceeding 10 million illegal border crossings into the United States in about 3 years. And so this resolution affirms Texas Governor Greg Abbott's right to defend the state of Texas from unrestrained illegal immigration. Whereas the state of Kansas continues to embrace the benefits of legal immigration and applauds the achievements and contributions of those who have become citizens through legal means, whereas the state of Kansas has mounting concerns for the safety of Kansas citizens ensuing from illegal immigration and the open disregard for the rule of law, and whereas the fentanyl crisis, largely created by our porous southern border, persists at an alarming rate, with a trajectory path from acute to grave, as shown by statistics provided by the Kansas Bureau of Investigation, that there's been a 3,000% increase in positive fentanyl tests, whereas the members of the Kansas Legislature are dismayed at President Joe Biden's continuing willingness to degrade both state and national security through an open border policy, whereas the members of the Kansas Legislature are united in their concern over the growing problem of illegal immigration in other states, and particularly in the state of Texas, whereas the states that border Mexico, particularly Texas, have faced an onslaught numbering millions of illegal immigrants attempting to cross the state border, and there's no end in sight, whereas governors from 25 states have expressed their dissatisfaction at President Biden's refusal to recognize the right of the state of Texas to defend itself against illegal immigration, whereas the same 25 governors support the right of Texas Governor Greg Abbott to create and execute policies that defend Texas and its citizens from illegal immigration, whereas the governor of Kansas has remained silent on the border crisis and has not taken action to assist Governor Abbott, whereas the Attorney General of Kansas has released to the Biden administration a letter penned by attorneys general from 26 other states joining together to show their support for Texas as it contends with the ongoing border issue with Mexico. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the state of Kansas that the Kansas Legislature joins in solidarity with the 25 united governors and Texas Governor Greg Abbott in asserting that as a state governor, he has a right to defend his state and its citizens against the unrestrained illegal immigration policies of President Biden. And be it further resolved that President Biden has violated his oath of office by failing to faithfully execute the immigration laws of our nation as enacted by the Congress of the United States, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of the Senate shall send an enrolled copy of this resolution to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, the Senate of Texas, the Texas House of Representatives, the United States Congressional Delegation from Kansas, and the Senate President. With that, Madam Chair, I will stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Johnson? The chair calls on the senator from Sedgwick. Senator ks.gov.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the gentleman from Johnson would answer two quick questions. First off, I'd like to say I believe this is an issue that the federal level should be addressing. And so we have the question to the gentleman from Johnson. We have the Kansas National Guard that is protecting us here in Kansas, I believe. And does he not feel that they are doing a good job? And if he could just elaborate on what exactly does he feel that President Biden isn't doing that we need this resolution to protect Texas. And thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, you may address those two questions.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's fairly simple. The federal government has been derelict in their duty to address this problem. As a matter of fact, they were allowed to cut razor wire being put in place by Texas to try to stem this tide of illegal immigration into the state. The problem is, when the federal government will not do their job, the state has a right to defend itself from a de facto invasion. Texas communities are being overrun. That governor down there, Greg Abbott, needs to be able to protect his communities from the costs, from the crime increase, from the drug increase, the drug cartels who are transporting people and trafficking both in drugs, sex trafficking, human trafficking. If we were on the border, we would be wanting to do the same thing. It would be one thing if the federal government would step up and do something, but they are actively working against the interests of Texas and all the South and Southwest border states. And that's why we need to support Governor Abbott in his efforts to do so. And like the resolution says, 25 other states have done so. And with regard to the National Guard here in Kansas, yes, we have it here. The governor, however, has refused to address and support Texas Governor Abbott. And she is the commander-in-chief of the National Guard here in Kansas. She could easily send our guard down to the border to help. There's 12 other states in the union that have already either sent personnel to the border or are pledging to do so. They understand, and they are seeing the increase in crime, the increase in fentanyl use in their states, and this is why they see this as an issue not only for the state of Texas, but a national issue. You saw recent reports from New York City where a police officer was beaten by illegal immigrants. They were taken to jail and released almost immediately. This is a problem that's proliferating across the United States. If you look at the time period from 1880 to 1920, legal immigration during that time period, legal immigration in that 40-year period was 20 million people, primarily coming from Europe, Italy, and also Ireland. Just within the 3.5-year period, based on the rate of illegal immigration into this country right now, we will have over 10 million illegal immigrants in this country in a 3-year period that we know of. We don't know of all the bad actors that are here. We will need the protection, not only of our guard, but also of our police officers. But if it's necessary to send the guard to the border to help out, we would hope that the governor would do so. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Fausto, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the gentleman's comments. And I don't know that the governor has exactly said she's not willing to do anything. She's following the chain of commands, I believe, allowing the federal level to exercise their scope of duties. And I too believe that individuals should go through the legal process to come to our great United States of America, Madam Chair. And from the senator's explanation just there, I wasn't sure if he was saying that we should send our National Guard to stand guard of the wiring being cut. There are so many urgent issues right here in Kansas that I wish we were, and I hope that we will discuss on this Senate floor as well, because they've got a lot of big support there in Texas, I believe, but I've not heard from any of the National Guard myself saying that they should arm up and boot up and suit up. Just one last question, and I'll yield, is, so if we were to send our National Guard support, would it be a fiscal note incurred? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The fiscal note would depend on how many guardsmen the governor would decide to send. And as Commander-in-Chief of the Guard in the state of Kansas, she will fully have control of that decision. So I can't speculate on what the fiscal note would be at this point.
At this time, the chair calls on the senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A question for the carrier of this resolution. Do you feel that resolutions are strong enough to make a difference in the way that Texas feels about this?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I believe that this resolution is absolutely necessary. I believe Governor Abbott needs to understand that there are other states who are standing with him and that will step up, because the federal government, the 50 states, should be doing it through the federal protection of the border, which is not happening, not coming from the federal government. So us standing with 25 other states, we're talking about half of the states, is indicating that Governor Abbott, that we have his support, and that if there's anything we can do to help, we will certainly do it. But I think it's certainly a show of force that now over half the states, if this passes, will have are standing behind Governor Abbott.
Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if they have power, do the resolutions like what Manhattan and Salina and Garden City and such sent on Medicaid expansion, does that have any power for our body here?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
I'm not sure I get the connection on that. I guess you're talking about a resolution. Resolutions are resolutions. They are not a statute, and therefore don't have the force and effect of law, but in this case, it shows support.
Senator from Finney. Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl, did you have a comment?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering to know if we were aware that we've had, like, I don't know how many, 7 or 8 communities that have sent us resolutions. I haven't seen it anywhere, like printed anywhere or anything, so I'm just wondering if we're just kind of wasting time with this resolution. Thank you.
Are there any further questions? The chair calls on the senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it is clear that our immigration system is broken and it's hurting our public safety, our agricultural industry, and our overall economy. I am proud that our Kansas National Guardsmen and women are currently at the border to support the federal government's efforts to strengthen border protections. And I also would say I urge Congress to come together and swiftly pass the bipartisan national security deal that had come together. So with that, Madam Chair, I have an amendment, and I have turned it in, and it's 3053.
Did you want to explain your amendment, or would you like to have it read?
I think I will have the reader read.
Mr. President, I move to amend SR 1737 on page 1 by striking all in lines 4 through 34, on page 2 by striking all in line 1 and inserting, whereas the United States has been at an impasse regarding the southern border of our country for decades, and whereas it is clear that our immigration system is broken and hurting public safety and agricultural industry and our overall economy, and whereas Kansas National Guardsmen and women were previously sent to support the federal government's effort to strengthen border protections, and whereas in order to resolve difficult issues such as the southern border, it is imperative to have everyone working together toward a solution, and whereas bipartisan support on issues of national security is necessary to resolve the challenges that we are facing. And whereas the United States Senate has embraced this challenge and worked toward a compromise to strengthen border security. And whereas compromise is necessary to successful solutions, and we should support the efforts of the United States Senate. Also on page 2, in line 2, by striking all after the colon, by striking all in lines 3 through line 9, and inserting that we support the United States Senate's efforts to compromise and work together to strengthen security along the southern border. And be it further resolved that the agreement our leaders at the federal level have reached on a bipartisan national security deal includes the toughest and fairest set of border reforms in decades. And be it further resolved that such agreement will make our country safer, our border more secure, and treat people fairly and humanely while preserving legal immigration consistent with our values as a nation. And be it further resolved that such agreement will make our asylum process more fair and efficient while still protecting the most vulnerable. And be it further resolved that such agreement provides resources needed to secure the border by adding Border Patrol agents, immigration judges, asylum officers, and cutting-edge inspection machines to help detect and stop the flow of fentanyl. And also in page 2, in line 11, by striking all after 2, by striking all in line 12, in line 13, by striking all before the period and inserting the United States Congressional Delegation from Kansas. On page 1, in the title in line 1, by striking all after resolution. In line 2, by striking all before the period and inserting calling on the Kansas Congressional Delegation to support the bipartisan immigration compromise that was negotiated in the United States Senate.
Are there any questions on the amendment?
Madam Chair?
The chair calls on the senator from Johnson.
Yes.
Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would ask the carrier of the amendment what exactly in detail and specificity is in the United States Senate's effort.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Thank you for the question. You know, I think what the real question is, Americans and Kansans are asking for solutions. And this Senate bill in our U.S. Senate was bipartisan. And it's not just pointing fingers, but they actually dug into the details and are working at making our country safer, making the border more secure. And so if we supported this underlying resolution, we should all support this because it is showing Kansans and Americans that we can come together and work bipartisanly to find solutions.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't hear any specific details. Without knowledge of what's in that Senate compromise or whatever there's working on, there's no way that we can support this amendment. I do not, in my opinion, believe it is a friendly amendment. It would alter the tone and tenor of the bill, and so I do not support this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
At this time, the chair calls on the senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question for the carrier of the amendment, but am simply standing in support. I think what we have been hearing is that the President, President Biden, has been working diligently with members of Congress to come up with a reasonable way to address this issue. And I think it is far more appropriate to give them our support in that rather than support a disagreement between a governor and the president. This immigration policy is the responsibility of Congress. I'm glad they're stepping up.
The chair calls on the senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Would the carrier of the amendment stand for question?
She will.
Thank you. What is the fiscal note on this amendment that she is supporting this federal legislation?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
This is a resolution. This is just asking our federal delegation to come together, which our leaders at the federal level have done the hard work to take time to reach a bipartisan agreement. And this is just saying that we affirm that bipartisanship and actually finding solutions instead of pointing fingers.
Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's not quite accurate. The amendment that this senator is asking this body to support has language that says that it is a bipartisan compromise negotiated in the United States Senate. So I ask, what is the fiscal note that she is asking this body to support at the federal level?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
I am asking you to support a resolution.
Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Madam Chairman, with all due respect, the minority leader has asked this body to support federal legislation via a resolution. There is a fiscal note to that legislation that she is asking this body to support. I will ask one more time, what is the fiscal note?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
Again, I think this resolution is making our border more secure, fair, and humane, and it is showing that Kansans, as well as our federal delegation, can come together in a bipartisan support to make our country safer.
Senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson, would you choose to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would. I find it quite disappointing. The carrier of the bill, or the original resolution, asked the carrier of the amendment to list in detail what she was asking this body to support. She has not done that. I've asked her for the fiscal note. It's over $118 billion that she is asking for this body to say, yes, we support that legislation. There are provisions in this, in that federal bill that I don't think this body is aware of. Therefore, I will not be supporting the amendment. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Are there any further questions on the amendment? Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
One last question, Madam Chair, for the carrier of the amendment. Can she tell us which members of the Kansas congressional delegation voted for this bipartisan action at the federal level?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Sykes.
They have not actually voted on this, so again, this is saying, let's come to a bipartisan solution.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, do you choose to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Are there any additional questions or comments on the carrier of the amendment? You may move your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move my amendment and I ask for a roll call vote.
Seeing the appropriate hands, roll call is in order. The clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner, Billinger, Blasey, Bowers, Clays, Corson, Dietrich, Dahl, Erickson, Fag, Fascudo, Francisco, Gossage, Haley, Holland, Holscher, Kirshen, Cluse, Longbine, Masterson, McGinn, Olson, O'Shea, Peck, Peterson, Petty, Pittman, Pyle, Reddy, Reichman, Schallenberger, Steffen, Straub, Sykes, Thompson, Tyson, Ware, Warren, Wilborn.
Has every senator had an opportunity to vote? Does any senator wish to explain their vote? Does any senator wish to change their vote? The clerk shall close the roll and tally the vote. With 11 having voted in favor and 29 voting in opposition, the amendment fails. We are back on the resolution. The chair calls on the senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll stand for any further questions.
The chair calls on the senator from Barton, Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd also like to thank the carrier of this resolution for finally bringing this before this body. I just want to ask him, when did he first receive or start receiving letters from constituents, emails, or a letter from a fellow House member?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I can't remember the exact date, but it's been weeks and weeks, certainly since Greg Abbott has had to defend his state when the razor wire was cut by the federal officials, and he tried to step up. That's when it really began to accelerate. We're hearing from a lot of different people saying we need to support the state of Texas.
Senator from Barton, Senator Straub.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I believe it was in early September that every member of the Kansas Legislature received an email from Representative from Fort Scott, Representative Trevor Jacobs. I know so because there was a copy of this letter sent to the governor's office on September 25th, 2023. I know that everyone in this body has heard from constituents, one side or the other, concerning this issue, but it is not a partisan issue. America is suffering the worst illegal immigration catastrophe in the history of our country. And this is just some of the data from this letter to the governor that was current back in September, nearly 5 months ago. Texas has apprehended more than 457,500 undocumented immigrants. Those are just the ones they've apprehended. They've made over 34,400 criminal arrests with over 31,300 felony charges. Operation Lone Star has also seized more than 429 million lethal doses of fentanyl that would have otherwise spread into communities across the nation. We implore Governor Kelly to stand with the other 14 states. I believe there's currently 25 other states that have stood with Governor Abbott to help defend our southern borders by sending the necessary resources, including the Kansas National Guard troops, to stop this negligent disregard for America's national security since the end of Title 42 expulsions. I know it sounds cliche, but freedom is not free. And every member of this body had the opportunity to do something that cost absolutely nothing, which was to sign on to a letter imploring our governor to send assistance, including up to our Kansas National Guard troops. I just want to make note of this. I just want this to be part of the permanent record that leadership has failed us yet once again. People have waited 5 months. I'm sure many people have died. Many people have been injured or otherwise caused harm due to illegal immigration. I really don't have anything else to say other than if your name is not one of the 20 that signed this letter back in September, you better sign on today. We need to do something. We must do something. And we must implore our governor to send Kansas's aid to Texas, to the Texas and our national border. Thank you.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson, do you wish to respond?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
At this time, the chair recognizes the senator from Shawnee, Senator Clues.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few statements to the body. I do have a life outside of these chambers. And this past year, I served extra time on about 6 different joint committees. I want to remind this body that I am a senator. I'm not a House member, rep. However, I do appreciate this letter. And maybe if I had an OA that could scroll through 1,500 emails when we're out of session, I would have had time to respond to this. So I just want to encourage our Senate body here, our caucus in particular, that that's why we have this resolution today, and that's why we are acting on this resolution today. And my apologies if my name was not on this list, which obviously it isn't, but I do stand for the resolution that we brought today. And once again, I do appreciate what Trevor Jacobs brought, but I feel like part of our responsibility is to try to do the best that we can to stand together, the House and Senate side. I just wanted to make these comments because I know there are some other colleagues that did not see this letter and obviously are in support of the resolution that we have on the floor today. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the carrier of the resolution, Senator from Johnson, Senator Thompson. I see no other person standing, so you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just make one quick additional statement. For the past 3 years, we've heard nothing out of the Biden administration or his surrogates, but the border is closed and secure. The illusion or the delusion to believe that he's going to do anything differently than what he's done for the past 3 years makes no sense. It's time for us to step up. It's time for us to support this resolution, time for us to support the state of Texas and Greg Abbott and what he's attempting to do, not only to save his state, but also to help us here in Kansas. And with that, I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Resolution 1737 favorable for adoption.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. At this time, we turn our attention to the Senator from Montgomery, Senator Peck, on Senate Bill 336.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move adoption of the committee report.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. You may proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senate Bill 336 is a fairly simple, straightforward bill. I know when we say that, people all of a sudden start paying attention, so that's the reason I thought I would say that. It would have been on the consent calendar except for a couple amendments that were brought by a colleague, which I supported the amendments. I thought they were good amendments. But simply stated, Senate Bill 336 removes the requirement for underground storage tank operating permits to be obtained annually. And then what are the amendments? The amendment, you can see the dark language there. It adds the word "or renew," and then down in Section 2, we are striking an outdated statute. When I say outdated, I mean outdated from 1992. So again, there's not much more to it than that. I'll be happy to stand for questions, Madam Chairman.
Are there any questions? The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, a comment. As the ranking on Ag, I am standing in full support of this bill. It is reasonable. It furthers public health, and because it streamlines the process, it makes very good use of Kansas taxpayer money.
Senator, the carrier of the bill, do you wish to respond? At this time, the chair recognizes the senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I served as chairman of the underground storage tank liability plan for 10 years. And these changes, of course, the annualization, moving it out to 3 years, is to help make the process much better, more efficient, and I strongly support this bill. Thank you.
Senator, I see no further questions. You may close.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I move when the committee rise and report, Senate Bill 336 favorable for passage.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. At this time, we're going to turn our attention to Senate Bill 349, and the chair calls on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn. I am not seeing the senator in the room, so we will move on. We will bypass Senate Bill 349, and we will address Senate Bill 347, and the chair recognizes the senator from Montgomery again, Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Kansas citizens voted on November the 8th, 2016 to amend the state constitution by adding Section 21 to the Bill of Rights. Section 21 of the Bill of Rights, I won't read it in its entirety, but it's titled "The Right to Hunt, Fish, and Trap Wildlife." And it says the people have the right to hunt, fish, and trap, including by the use of traditional methods, subject to laws and regulations that promote wildlife conservation and management. And then it goes on from there. Because of the fact that we are dealing with a constitutional right in the Kansas Constitution, and the Wildlife and Parks Commission currently is appointed but not confirmed by the Senate, this legislation was brought forward, and so it would simply state that we as a body believe it would be beneficial to make certain that we protect a constitutional right by Senate confirmation of the Wildlife and Parks Commission. With that, Madam Chairman, I'll be happy to stand for questions.
Are there any questions for the senator from Montgomery? The chair calls on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the previous bill from the Ag Committee was reasonable, smart, and streamlined. This one is anything but. This bill is an answer to a problem that doesn't exist, except in someone's mind. In doing so, it adds another layer of government. So it's wasteful to the taxpayer money.
Senator from Montgomery, Senator Peck, do you wish to respond? The chair recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was pleased to also be a member of the committee that heard this bill. And the bill would add, among other things, a sentence to the existing statute that says that confirmation by the Senate is to preserve the rights guaranteed by Section 21 of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of the State of Kansas. Yet, already in our statute, that same statute, each member of the commission is required to take and subscribe an oath or affirmation as required by law before taking office. So I'm wondering, why would Senate confirmation provide a stronger way to preserve the rights to hunt, fish, and trap wildlife than an oath to follow the Constitution?
Senator Montgomery, from Montgomery, Senator Peck.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Again, I believe this is straightforward. The commission in statute shall have powers, duties, and functions as prescribed by law. Other than rules and regulations pertaining to personal matters of the department, the secretary shall submit to the commission all proposed rules and regulations. I could go on because there's more in the statute. I won't at this time, but because of the fact that this commission has the authority to adopt or change and adopt or deny proposed regulations from the Secretary of Wildlife and Parks, protecting our constitutional right to hunt, fish, and trap is a valuable thing. Having an extra set of eyes, meaning this Kansas State Senate, over the commission confirmation process, I believe is beneficial to the citizens of Kansas who wish to see this right continue to be protected.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are other boards and commissions that do require Senate confirmation, but there is a major difference with the Department of Wildlife and Parks. Those other boards or commissions oversee agency budgets or personnel. The Secretary of the Department of Wildlife and Parks already is subject to Senate confirmation. So that process exists for this department. The commissioners hold meetings open to the public to gather feedback on proposed rules and regulations, and they can promulgate those rules. But this legislature has the opportunity through our Joint Committee on Rules and Regulations to hear those rules, respond, and also then make changes to the statutes if we feel that's necessary. So there is already a opportunity for checks and balances. I'm concerned that I think this is adding cost and complexity to the process. It adds time and unfortunately could be delay. We're talking about rules and regulations that often affect particular hunting seasons, so it's important to get that input in time for the new permits to be issued with that input from the public. So again, I see no reason to add cost and complexity. This is a process that has been working. I have had the opportunity to attend commission meetings myself. I appreciate how it's handled. The really important part of this process is that we get good information, good advice, and some expert advice on managing our wildlife population. So I would not want to see this process become more political. It's a process that should be based in both science and comments, public comments from those who are involved in hunting, fishing, and trapping. Thank you.
Senator from Montgomery, did you choose to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Not at this time.
Okay. The chair now recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I, too, rise in opposition to this bill. I think this is another example of, once again, of the various governmental branches getting out of their lanes. This would be a start of, once again, where the legislative body is encroaching on executive powers. We already have a check and balance in that, as the Senator from Douglas pointed out. And quite honestly, I just see this degenerate into, if this were to pass, then basically there would be a move by the legislature to extend this type of, what I view very intrusive and inappropriate unconstitutional oversight into more executive agencies and departments. So I too am concerned about the political ramifications of this. I think it would stop our governor and the executive branch, basically would slow them down in administering these departments and agencies. I don't think it's good policy. Thank you.
The chair sees no further, chair recognizes Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hate to see us just continue to make everything Senate confirmation. As I believe was said, these are kind of administrative oversight, and they have to deal with budgets and things like that. My concern is, if we want people to serve and be part of our state and the different things that we do with agencies and things like that, I don't think we should make it difficult. I bet many of you have been in a committee where you've had Senate confirmations, and you look at that paperwork and they go through quite a bit just to have the opportunity to do that. Then they come before the hearings and things like that. I just wouldn't want to intimidate good people from wanting to serve. And it seems to me that there is already a good balance in the system that we already have. And so, you know, I want hunters, fishers, and wildlife people, people that love nature. I want them all to be on there, and then work together for the improvements of our state parks and our hunting and fishing opportunities. Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments for the Senator from Montgomery? Seeing none, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I failed to mention in my opening statement when I talked about the vote in 2016, it was overwhelming. 81% yes to 19% no to put into the Kansas Constitution the protection to hunt, fish, and trap. The commission has the fees are established for license, permits, stamps, and other issues of the department shall be subject to the approval of the commission. That's another thing in statute, and it goes on because, again, Madam Chairman, we're dealing with a constitutional right. This will allow elected representatives of the people, the Kansas Senate, to ask the commission questions about their belief regarding the constitutional right to hunt, fish, and trap. Make certain that we have individuals who believe in the Kansas Constitution and will uphold the Kansas Constitution on this particular right. We have a long list of boards and commissions that stand for Senate confirmation currently. I was provided a list by the reviser of statutes. It's significantly long, and then there are additional individuals and appointees that stand for Senate confirmation that the reviser of statutes did not provide for me. So again, protecting the Kansas Constitution is important, particularly for those of us who strongly believe in the right to hunt, fish, and trap. We don't want a commission who's going to diminish those rights. Not that we have. We're not looking at an issue that has come up, but this is a preemptive measure to make certain that we always have this constitutional right protected by the Department of Wildlife and Parks Commission. So with that, Madam Chairman, I would move that when the committee rise and report, it reports Senate Bill 347 favorable for passage.
You've all heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. At this time, the chair calls on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn, to explain Senate Bill 349.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This bill authorizes the Secretary of Transportation to establish and implement a passenger rail service. The bill would require KDOT to provide funding for the cost of the qualifying projects and provide operating services for Amtrak or any common rail carrier approved by the Federal Railroad Administration. The bill would also require the Secretary of Transportation, in consultation with the Director of Budget, to determine the amount of the unencumbered monies in the State General Fund, State Highway Fund, or any special revenue fund that KDOT has that may be used for intercity passenger rail. And the determination of this time period of the transfer would be from July 1, 2025 to July 1 of 2035. And upon certification, the Secretary of Transportation would, the bill would require $5 million to be transferred to the State General Fund, the State Highway Fund. KDOT indicates that the enactment of the bill would require the $5 million of unencumbered funds from the State General Fund, State Highway Fund, and Special Revenue Fund to be transferred for passenger rail during those years. The goal of this bill is to put the money in and have 10 years of interest built up so that during this process, and let me just back up, I think everybody knows that there was a lot of money that the federal government set out there and worked, and the Federal Railroad Administration has been doing the policy work on that and allowing either new extensions for rail across the country or building back those extensions that were taken away. And the extension from Newton, Kansas to Oklahoma City was pulled off in 1979. If you look at the map of all the rail interconnections across the United States, you'll easily see that there is a link that is not provided to allow people to go east-west, north-south, all the way down to the upper border or down to the southern border or wherever and travel because that piece is missing. And this would be a great opportunity economically because that's our I-35 corridor. So in this process, we, along with MIPIRC, Department of Transportation, back when we did our 10-year transportation plan, and I even found out when all this came up that our president actually joined with another senator in 2010 that was the lead bill to transition into what we're doing here today. So this bill would, again, provide $5,000 for 10 years, $5 million, yeah, 5,000. That'd be easy. I don't even think I've seen a budget item yet this last couple weeks for $5,000. But that will help us make the leap. The federal government's money will come in and they will take care of most of the first 5 years and get things redeveloped, but we have to be prepared to pay for that later. So it'll be interest income that pays for this passenger rail. We also have some great opportunities that Amtrak could put a train on in Kansas City and take some train service down to the Wichita area and back. And that would open up all the way from Chicago, clear down to the southern border. So we just received the Federal Railroad Administration's $500,000 to help us finish our service development plan. And now it is time for us to start preparing for how are we going to continue this service over time after Amtrak and the federal government help us get it started. So with that, Madam Chair, I'll stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sedgwick? Chair calls on the senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got a couple questions, if she'd answer them.
She will.
Let me make sure I get the numbers right. So first, it's $5 million a year over 10 years. Is that correct? That will be budgeted for this?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
That is correct.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Is there any other money that will go to this project from KDOT or State General Fund or the state?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
I believe the intention is to make the transfer into the SGF that goes to the sales tax that is part of the transportation plan to go into the special revenue fund, which is designated for rail.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
So I just want to make it clear, the state's portion for the next 10 years would be $5 million a year, total of $50 million and no more?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
That is correct.
Senator from
Okay.
Johnson, Senator Olson.
How many people in the past, when we had this, used the rails annually a year?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
I'm sorry, I didn't know it was going to be such a quick question. So how many, what, uses rail a year?
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just trying to get a number in my head, how many people annually used the rail prior to this rail going away in the Kansas portion?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
I don't have that answer.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Most of the time when I do stuff, I try to get a cost payback and how long it's going to be before I'm made whole. And I try to do the same in everything I do. And this one here, I struggle with. I guess we're going to get some federal money. It's only going to cost us $5 million a year. But the payback, how is this thing going to get off the state? Because, $50 million is a lot of money over the next 10 years. And we could build a couple bridges for that. There's a lot of highway it could be laid. There's a lot of things that need to be funded, special ed, special needs programs. And I struggle. I just don't see how you're going to get the traffic. When you link this link up, that Kansans are going to recover that $5 million a year and all that outlay capital you put out. I have my struggles with this bill, and I can't support it for that reason, so I'm not going to support it. Thank you for allowing me to ask them questions.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn, would you like to respond?
I would, and if the senator from the transportation chair, if I err, I'll hope that he saves me. But the $5 million is just going to be invested. And it'll still belong to the people of Kansas. It's the investment to earn the interest money in order to pay for the service after it is fully turned over to us. As far as the amount of people, we have the Southwest Chief that comes through Kansas, and it provides passenger service from Kansas City through Dodge City and Garden City, goes all the way over to California. And back to dropping another train from Amtrak from Kansas City to Wichita, again, you're going to have people that don't drive anymore or don't want to drive or they want to be on their computer. I've even heard there's possibilities with this World Cup that Amtrak could just drop a train or two as part of their transportation plan to get riders back and forth to doing the soccer games. So that's just some examples. One more thing, Madam Chair, if I could share. I don't have those numbers again with me because, I'm not on transportation, and I just found out about this bill last night. But one of the things that the city of Wichita did to show ridership, they started a bus that picks people up at Newton, and 3 o'clock in the morning, I think they arrive 3 or 4, whatever, they arrive in Wichita 4 or 5, and that bus takes them all the way down to Oklahoma City. And I have heard that that bus is full, and that, to me, shares how much people want to have a train in the central part, the mid part of the United States, and we are left out, and we are the missing link right now.
The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Frascadot.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the lady from Sedgwick would stand for a question.
She will.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Madam Chair, I'll say this. My mother had 9 sisters, and some of them didn't drive, actually, and some of them didn't like to fly. And so I recall sometimes driving them to Newton to catch the train. And so at least I could say 10 people would have been on the train, my mother and her 9 sisters. So just to, and I do agree, we are kind of left out of the link of connecting neighboring states, communities, keeping young people here. Madam Chair, I remember we've talked about passenger rail. It seems like forever, and we need to move forward with this issue. And if the lady from Sedgwick could share with me, so would there be any federal funding, matching funds? And if she could just describe again that connection from Newton, would it go through Wichita all the way to, I'm really a LA girl, would it go to California, or would it just stop at Texas or Oklahoma? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Well, this is the Heartland Flyer, and the Heartland Flyer takes us clear down to Fort Worth. So, and then from Fort Worth, then you can go all the way down to the border if you like. If you want to go to California, just stay on the Southwest Sheaf and keep going west. This is to move people up and down from Chicago all the way down to Dallas, Texas, and beyond. And so I'm trying to think of one of your questions was, federal funding. So we will have federal funding that first 5 years, and that's where we'll develop siding and all the things we need so that our freight rail can continue to move back and forth. We certainly want that. We also have grants that we apply for, and this state has actually received one, but they have CRISI grants and we have Tiger grants. And our state belongs to the Midwest Interstate Passenger Rail Coalition. And if you came to our rail caucus, your eyes would have been open because of the belonging to them, they compete with funds in the Northeast. So it's New York and it's Chicago and the Midwest. And they showed a map of all the possibilities where you can go. This doesn't just open up going to Oklahoma. This allows you to go to Detroit. This allows you to go to so many places. Because it's not just our link that's going to open up. There's going to be some other links that open up. And it's a great way to travel, economical, and you can move around the plane a little bit easier than a plane. So anyway, I hope I answered the senator's questions.
Senator from Reno, Senator Stephan.
Thank you. Just a comment in regards to the idea that it's economical. In one of the infrastructure bills passed at the federal level in like 2021, they gave $66 billion to Amtrak. So there's nothing small about $66 billion. And in that, the chief executive of the Rail Passengers Association said that that's a really significant change because implicit in that is that we're no longer trying to make Amtrak into a profit-making venture. basically $66 billion at the federal level, $5 million recurring dollars at the state level, and every indicator is that that will never end. It will be an ongoing loss year after year. Thank you.
This time the chair calls on the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One thing we need to remember is a lot of these federal dollars coming in are improvement of the rail. So there's no overtake issues where the Amtrak trains run faster and double tracking and additional sidings. That improves the freight, it improves being able to move our economies and our goods completely and thoroughly more efficiently. It helps out with that. $5 million a year, which goes into a fund, it's reserve fund, and the interest will help with the operation, allows us to show that we are working towards funding the operation to keep us up high on the list so we can get those federal dollar rail improvements brought to our tracks. Hope that helps. Thank you.
Are there any additional questions or comments? The chair recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I represent a district that includes the Amtrak station in downtown Lawrence. And the community absolutely supports that opportunity, but I can't get to Wichita if I have a meeting there. So some of this is going to be the national travel. A lot of it can also be travel within the state. So I've enjoyed the opportunities to take the train to a meeting in Dodge City, and you can take it overnight, you can go to your meeting, you can head back home on the evening train and not miss your meetings here at home. But the question that I have for the senator from Sedgwick is, I understood, and I'm very pleased that I did have a chance to attend the rail passenger meeting that she organized, but that the Amtrak is planning to fund operations in the state for the first year at 90%, the second year at 80%, the third year at 70%. I don't know how far that goes, but there's a significant commitment to allowing Kansas to build up travel, understanding of the routes, and then this money would be ready to either match that percentage that we still need or really continue the program that at that point I know we would have many constituents who support.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
I'm not clear of the question.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco, would you restate your question?
Thank you. Is it, this money would be there to match the percentage that the state would have to put in as the operations are, or the money from Amtrak is reduced from 90, 80, 70%?
I'd have to defer to the chair from Transportation if he would like to answer that.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
The answer is the interest from this money would be there to help on that match and help with both the operations.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco, does that answer your question? Are there any additional questions or comments? Okay, we've got three, so we're going to start with the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Ware.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A comment really, the economic development potential with this is really, really big and should not be forgotten. I mean, for myself, I can't wait to have a chance to travel easily towards the northeast part of the state. But each of those stops along the way, those small towns are going to see a real boon out of this. I think it's a part that we aren't talking about quite enough.
Chair now recognizes the senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question for the carrier of the bill, or maybe the committee chair, if she's unaware. Did Kansas businesses, I'm curious, just weigh in on basically their thoughts about building out this opportunity for for Kansas.
Did Kansans weigh in if that, sorry.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank
from
you,
Sedgwick.
Madam Chair. I think the question is, did Kansans weigh in on building this out?
It is.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, that was not my question.
Oh.
My question was, did Kansas businesses, like the Chamber of Commerce, the regional areas of commerce, did they weigh in on the building out of this line?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll just take you back a little bit, and we'll go back to, I think it was 2019. We had the Transportation Task Force that was put together that traveled all across the state. And the secretary at the time made sure that we talked about every mode of travel, whether it was bicycles, airplanes, transit, automobiles, whatever it was. And we had a number of people that were talking about rail service in their community, and that was all across the state. Now, it would take me a while. If the body wants to stand at ease, I'll go look up the archives and find all the testimony. But I'd just like to share that we had a lot of people that was really interested all across the state in rail transportation.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Holland.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And no, my question is not at all to question the motives or why we're doing this. I guess my point I wanted to make is that I think we've got more of a, when you look at this issue, there may be an initial tendency to myopically look at, oh, just about, say personal travel along this line. I think we take a step back and just look at basically where economic development, where it's trending in this state. To me, more and more relevant in the economic lifelines of the state, you're basically talking the I-35 corridor from Kansas City, obviously, down to the border. And then obviously you have what I call the Golden Triangle there in South Central, going up through Salina and connect onto I-70. And my point is, Madam Chair, is I do think we have an opportunity here, once again in my mind, to leverage some significant federal dollars to put this in place. I view this opportunity as much more than just, Kansas citizens getting to ride from Northeast Kansas down to Wichita. I really view this as an opportunity where business executives, teams, whatever, they now have a way to get from points around the country from Northeast directly down into Wichita, South Central. I think it's vital that we have this in place. I mean, people might want to look at it as maybe just a wasteful subsidy or something like that, but to me, this is just like having a highway infrastructure, having airports in place. We're talking about potentially to be able to move economic development dollars through not only just people coming down the line from Northeast down to Wichita, then on to eventually to Fort Worth, but basically businesses. And I think this would really help potentially develop some of those opportunities to get some additional jobs here in the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would the senator from Sedgwick choose to respond?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank the senator from Douglas for bringing this up. The late president of Wichita State University, John Bardo, when he came to Wichita State, he changed the whole thinking of how we educate students, get them jobs, and that type of thing. And he constantly, it didn't matter what meeting he was at, he was preaching opening up that 35 corridor. And believe me, he was talking to the chambers and everything else. And so that's exactly where the senator, I think, was trying to express. So yes, it's not just passenger rail for either millennials or people like McGinn that just doesn't want to drive and wants to be on her computer and those types of things. So this is going to be an economic driver.
The chair calls on the senator from Butler, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Would the good senator from Sedgwick stand for question, please?
She will.
The question I have when I read through this is going to 2034. I've always understood that when we do budgets around here, we're doing ours for 2024, 2025. When we're talking 2034, there is a lot of water that goes under the bridge. And there's a lot of factors. We could have a recession. We could have a call from the federal government to do this next year. I don't have no problem with the $5 million. It's the idea of committing out that far. if we really want to draw interest, then we have the money right now, we'd put more money in there right now and draw interest on that and factor that along that way. But I just was wondering on the 2034, how a person can look out and say, can we afford this 5 years out with what we don't know today? Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, you know, we didn't know we were going to be in a recession in '09 and then had another little problem with our finances again in 11 and 12. We didn't know that, and we had to make changes, and we made changes. I mean, I hated it, but, you know, every one of us that have been here that long knows that we had to shut down Department of Transportation. We had to cut services. That's what you do. But I think there's a whole lot of new people here that hadn't had that experience yet. And we were so glad that when we finally came out of that, we got to restore our Department of Transportation, who's doing a great job all across this state. And we had to fix and restore some of the areas in social services as well. But as far as answering the senator's question, I have to ask him to answer it himself. I was not able to attend when this bill, the budget, the KDOT budget, was in the committee of the whole on Friday because I was at a funeral. So I believe they had this conversation. I don't know if the senator was there, but I'd have to go back and roll the tapes from what happened after 11 o'clock in the Ways and Means Committee.
The chair recognizes the senator from, let's see, Senator from Butler, Senator Fagg, did you want to respond to the question?
Yes, Madam Chair. I was the one that took it out of there because I didn't want to commit to 2034. I don't have a problem with 5 million local. It's the idea of us committing out 10 years in the future. So that's where I'm from.
At this time, the chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A couple things I didn't say the first time around. You know, I was working with KDOT on some bridges that we were having problems getting rebuilt. There's so much traffic on the rails right now. You know, we've got more freight that's moved by rail today than at any time, and it's going to keep growing. There's not going to be room to put these trains on safely and run everything on the rails that we want to run. And another thing, if we're going to focus money on the rail system, the place we need to focus that money on is bridges. In our community, there's plenty of places that we need to lift the rail or have a bridge over it or under it. I bet you in almost every part of the state. And, you know, when you go down to, say, Fort Scott, Jayhawk Road, at the bottom of that, it's a major corridor. And what happens is people get backed all the way up to 69 and they shut the highway down. They need an overpass over the rail there, but they're going to take, you know, state money, KDOT money to do this instead when they need to look at improving their facilities. I guarantee you there's situations like that all around the state. So do we really need to take this money? And you already heard at the federal level, they're funding it at $66 billion. That's not going to go down. It's going to go up. So what you start funding today is just going to keep increasing. You're going to have to fund more and more and more. And you even heard it, that they're going to start off at 90%, then 80, then 70, and you're going to get yourself into something you got to fund more or cut it at all. But in my mind, I think the rail systems are working good, and I don't think we need to add stuff on the rail. I think we need to keep the freight moving. So, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm glad the senator brought up bridges because one of the things I'm very proud of, as we drafted the 10-year transportation plan, We put in a cost share program for communities to get those bridges fixed, and it's been wildly successful. County commissioners all across the state are very happy that we did that. And then also, I just wanted to make a comment about the rail for freight will improve. Right now, freight trains are so long, the siding's not even long enough for them to pull over. The passenger rail would have to do that. So there's going to be improvements along freight, and also freight can't go as fast because the rails are not in that good a shape. So this will speed up our freight rail as well.
The chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a couple points. I'm a strong supporter of this bill, and I just want to share with the body a couple reasons why. One is I think we're talking a lot about how this would benefit Kansans who want to go to Oklahoma or other parts of the country. But in committee, we actually got a lot of letters of support. We actually had the mayor of Ponca City, Oklahoma, came all the way to Topeka to testify in support of this, because what the testimony was is that this is going to be a big economic driver for Kansas, because this is going to bring in to our great state a lot of people from Oklahoma and Texas who would have an easier way of accessing our state, who are going to come in and spend money. They're going to bring their families for weekends, for vacations. They're going to see things in Kansas that previously have not been easily accessible. So I think we've talked a lot today about how this would benefit Kansans moving to other states, but there's actually going to be a lot of folks coming to our state who are going to spend money and inject that money into the Kansas economy. The second point I want to make is that there was a question about, is this a good financial investment? And it's not completely apples to apples, but Missouri, for example, has the River Runner. For those of you, many of you probably know this, but Missouri has a River Runner which goes from Kansas City to St. Louis and back, and there's 8 stops along the way. And so they did a 2021 economic impact study, and they found a total annual economic activity of $208 million, over 1,200 jobs, $65 million in annual income to Missouri workers, and $22 million in additional tax revenue as part of the River Runner. So I think that, again, while it's never completely apples to apples, I think we would see significant economic activity, and that's why I think we had so many folks who were either city managers or mayors from places like McPherson, Ark City, Dodge City, Garden City, who are really excited about this because they think that there can be a lot of economic development along this. So I think this is a relatively low-cost win for the state of Kansas, and a chance for us to, again, bring in visitors to our state and really drive some economic activity that we wouldn't otherwise have. So I hope the body will join me in supporting this legislation. Thank you.
The chair recognizes the senator from Brown, Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have a question, and my question, Madam Chair, is to the carrier. And first question is going to be about train lengths. How long are these trains? We had a debate last year, or maybe the year before that, about train lengths. So I'm just curious how long these passenger trains are.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
My understanding, the trains are approximately the same length that on that bill we did pass last year. Didn't know I was going to get quizzed on that. I want to say, maybe the chair knows, but I want to say it was around 1,400, 1,800 feet, but they will not be 3 and 4 mile long trains.
Senator from Brown, Senator Pyle.
Thank you. My second question is, we passed a bill on this floor. It's sitting over in the House. It's House Bill 2284. It's a conference committee report. It's a tax cut measure, and it puts us in the red in a few years. Would the senator, the carrier of this, agree that this should be one of the first things that gets cut when we get in the red in 4 or 5 years if that bill were to become law?
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator McGinn.
Well, when that happens, if anybody wishes to call me, I'd be happy to provide anybody with advice on that. But again, I go back to every year the legislature has the ability to change things if they need to. And, you know, if you want me to give my opinion, that'd be fine. But I think it's going to be up to the body that is elected after this next election to make those decisions.
Senator from Brown, Senator Pyle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't disagree with that. I do agree, though, with the thought process that says that you're adding to the spending for $5 million a year that wasn't built into that tax plan, so you can put that tax plan in the red sooner. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
The chair recognizes the senator from Francisco, Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Could move to San Francisco.
Let's get the train there.
Thank you. I believe an Amtrak train is about 1,200 feet, but I want to stand up and show my appreciation for the comments from the senator from Johnson and the other senator from Douglas, because this really does involve economic development. And if you're a business person and you're riding on Amtrak instead of driving, those are often billable hours, really important to people who are doing work.
Senator from Sedgwick, did you want to respond? Okay. So next up, we have the senator from Lynn, Senator Tyson.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I thank the carrier of the bill on this. I don't have any questions for her. I would like to address the false statement made about a tax bill putting us in the red. The tax bill doesn't put us in the red. It's maximum increased spending that would put us in the red, not a tax bill. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
At this time, the chair calls on the senator from Shawnee, Senator Clues.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to rise in support of this legislation. We, and just to note, too, appreciation for Senator Peterson, who has been just doing a great job as chair of transportation, learning a lot from him. And you know, each senator has their little niche and passion, and I got to say, Senator McGinn, she has had a real passion for this. I've been able to sit in on numerous luncheons that she's had over the last few years, and I just really feel that Senator Peterson made a good comment earlier that these passenger rails are piggybacking on the freight system. So I think we're going to see more built on that infrastructure and more dollars available. This passenger rail, we've been talking about airports, and I think it's all good for where we're going for Kansas and the economy, tourism, we got agritourism, and so I just think we need to keep these things in mind as well. What's going to help grow our state? And I was also just given some information concerning a question earlier, Amtrak trains and how many people, the ridership, what they serve, Dodge City, 3,500, Garden City, 4,900, Hutchinson, 26, Lawrence, 5,300, Newton, almost 11,000. So total is about 33,000 to make a comment there. But, you know, if we don't catch some vision on the future, what are we going to leave our kids and grandkids? And so I think we need to keep that in mind as well. Yeah, the feds do a lot of things that we have no control over, but I want to see Kansas grow, and I think this is a good way of doing it and drawing more people for tourism. So thank you, Madam Chair.
The chair recognizes the senator from McPherson, Senator Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's been my honor to represent the 35th Senate District in central Kansas. One of the key communities in that district is McPherson County. We are on the top side of the I-35 corridor, which has been a wonderful economic benefit. McPherson County enjoys the highest per capita industrial in any county in the state. The I-35 initiative that the good senator from Sedgwick talked about has benefited our community both in transportation, and this truly is visionary, getting ahead of the of the curve so that when the Amtrak does come Fort Worth, all the way up to McPherson, Wichita, it benefits our industries, it benefits our constituents, and I'm strongly supportive of this effort. Thank you.
Senator from Sedgwick, we're going to pause for just a moment because every time I've wanted to say you may close, some 2 or 3 people stand up. So we're going to pause. I don't see any other senators standing to speak, so at this time, you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For a moment, I thought I was carrying the budget again because I always have to stand up at least for an hour. But anyway, there was a comment made earlier about the financing of it, and I'm not sure, I think it was Senator from Douglas that gave the formula, the 90%, or maybe it was Senator from Sedgwick. We know what we're getting into. We know what we're getting into. We know the timelines, and we've been working very hard to be the one that is picked by the Federal Railroad Administration. And so we need to get on the ride and start working for our citizens of the state of Kansas. I heard a lot of comment about $66 billion. Well, that's just a small piece if you consider other things, other agencies that received money too, through this whole post-COVID too much money given away program. And so, I could say, let's not do the Heartland Flyer. Let's not connect the largest city in the state of Kansas to Oklahoma. And as somebody shared, maybe the good senator from Johnson, we had people from Oklahoma that were mayors. We've been in communication with legislators. Oklahoma wants this, Texas wants this. So we could say, let's not touch that $66 billion. We want to be pure here. Let's let the northeast part of the country have that money, because somebody's going to take it. And my job in this chamber is to fight for the citizens of Kansas. And it's time now for us to be connected with the rest of the railroad routes across this country. With that, Madam Chair, I move when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 349 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. Motion carries. This time the chair recognizes the senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger, to explain Senate Bill 172.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 172. This is a capers bill that changes the death benefit from $4,000 to $6,000. And this hasn't been changed for 30 years, since 1993. Started out in 1982 at $750. It's currently at $4,000. We want to move it to $6,000. Current death payments are $4,000. They total about $14 million out of Capers Trust Fund. That's what we're paying currently. The increase in death benefit and the actual payment will increase by about $6.8 million annually for 20 years. The Capers unfunded liability, which we had a lot of questions in committee about the unfunded liability. And I know that many in this body have worked hard for the last 12 years to try to stabilize Capers. 2011, when I got here, was about 55%. We finally got that to 80%, and then the Capers board, with all their wisdom, decided to add some more years on, so that unfunded liability went up over $2 billion, just that quick. So I know folks are concerned that we will take $108 million and add it to the unfunded liability. But the folks that this will help, these folks have probably been retired a long, long time, and they haven't seen any increases in their income as far as capers, because it is a defined benefit, but they've lived through the last 3 years of this administration, and the fact is inflation is ruining us. People just can't afford to do what they used to do. People are paying for groceries with the credit cards. That's what's going on in this country today. So I think this is one way we can help our capers retirees by giving them a little more of this benefit. Last year, return on investment for capers was 11.1%, around $2 billion earned. So I don't believe that adding $108 million is going to be too bad of a deal for the capers investments. Yes, the year before, we did have a negative return, and the year before that, but averaging we're close to 8% or better over the last 30 years, 35 years, whatever it's been. I think that we all want to make sure that we have plenty of money in our capers. You know, and the unfunded liability is a great concern. It's been a concern of mine since the day I got here, and I know it is for many in this body. But I mentioned earlier about how bad it was funded in 2011, but today we have just under $27 billion in that account. So we've moved the needle a great deal. And so for those reasons, I'm supporting this, and I would stand for questions.
Are there questions for the senator from Sherman? The chair recognizes the senator from Wyandotte, Senator Petty.
I don't have a question. I just rise in support of the SB 172. As the chairman of Ways and Means said, this lump sum death benefit hasn't been increased since 1993. And it doesn't even cover that. Raising it to $6,000 would not even cover a cremation. So it is a recognition of those that have been in the caper system, have retired through the caper system, which could be everybody in this room eventually, and would someday their families would appreciate this death benefit. So I rise in support of Senate Bill 172.
The chair recognizes the senator from Lyons, Senator Longbine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank the senator from Sherman for bringing this bill. I agree with the concept. I certainly agree that it is time for an increase in the death benefit. I think we heard in caucus that this won't even pay for a cremation, and that funeral costs are much higher. And with inflation, our keepers, retirants who are getting older could certainly use this benefit. The problem that I have as the capers chair, as the chair, vice chair for the Joint Capers Committee and the chair of the committee that normally handles our capers bills that come through this body, I have been very, very consistent with all of those who have contacted me, and I literally have a capers proposal that people talk to me about virtually every day, whether that's a COLA, whether that's fixing Tier 3, whether that's converting Tier 2, whether it's working after retirement, whether it's increasing the threshold on payback, many, many proposals. And I have been very, very consistent with every one of those people in asking them, how are you going to pay for it? And I have always told them, in my opinion, increasing the unfunded liability is a non-starter. We've worked too hard to go backwards. We still have a long way to go.
We have done some extraordinary things to increase our funded ratio, and Senator Billinger has been a big part of those with the bonding that we've done in Capers. I can't support the bill the way it currently is because I need to be consistent with all of those constituencies that I have talked to on a regular basis about increasing the unfunded liability. I might feel differently about this bill if this $108 million was taken out of SGF, as I have told everybody on Capers 3 reform, Capers 2 reform, and all of the other proposals. We have to have a funding mechanism. Taking it out of the UAL is not something that I can support, and I just wanted to let the body know that I can't support this bill the way it's currently written because I feel like I need to be consistent to all those constituencies that I've talked to on a regular basis. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Chair recognizes the senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and I thank the good senator from Lyon. I don't disagree. I feel the same way on the unfunded liability. This is being paid for over 20 years using the increased payment from the agencies. Each agency will have to pay 0.13% more for the next 20 years. It's approximately $6.8 million a year. So we are paying for this through our agencies and the increase of the 0.13%. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator, I don't see anyone else standing to ask questions or to make comments, so you may close.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that when the committee rises and reports, it reports Senate Bill 172 favorably for passage.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries. The chair recognizes the majority leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move the committee rise and report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, no. The motion carries.
The clerk will read the committee report.
On motion of Senator Alley, the Senate resolved itself into the Committee of the Whole for consideration of bills on the calendar under the heading of General Orders, with Senator Baumgardner in the chair. Recommended Senate Resolution 1737 be adopted, Senate Bill 336 be amended by the adoption of the committee report, and the bill be passed as amended. Senate Bills 347, 349, and 172 be passed, and Senate Bill 23 be passed over but retain a place on the calendar passed.
The chair recognizes the senator from Miami, Senator Baumgardner, to adopt the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move we adopt the committee report.
You have heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. Introduction of bills and concurrent resolutions. The clerk will read.
Senate Bill number 505 by Committee on Ways and Means, an act concerning retirement and pensions. Senate Bill number 506 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning real property. Senate Bill number 507 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning income tax. Senate Bill number 508 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning veterans. Senate Bill number 509 by Committee on Assessment and Taxation, an act concerning income taxation. Senate Bill number 510 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning cities. Senate Bill number 511 by Committee on Federal and State Affairs, an act concerning alcoholic liquor. And the Senate Concurrent Resolution number 1618 by Senators Clays and others, a proposition to amend Section 4 of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution of the State of Kansas to recognize the right to bear arms as a fundamental right.
This constitutes the introduction of Senate Bill 505 through Senate Bill 511 and Senate Concurrent Resolution 1618. Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Mr. President, your Committee on Federal and State Affairs begs leave to submit the following report. The following appointment was referred to and considered by the committee, and your committee recommends that the Senate approve and consent to such appointment. By the Governor, State Fire Marshal Mark Engelholm. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends House Bill 2392 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 414 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 292 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 394 be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Judiciary recommends Senate Bill 419 be passed. Mr. President, the Committee on Local Government recommends Senate Bill 162 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 359 be amended and the bill be passed as amended. Mr. President, the Committee on Transportation recommends Senate Bill 410 be amended and the bill be passed as amended.
Are there announcements? The chair recognizes the senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Just wanted to remind the body the legislative Bible study is tomorrow morning, 7 a.m., 142 South.
Are there other announcements? Seeing none, the chair recognizes the senator from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I move the Senate adjourn until 2:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 14th, also known as Valentine's Day, 2024.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. Motion carries. The Senate is adjourned.